Hey, what's up, everybody? This is the Starting Block Podcast. I am your host, John Nelson. We appreciate you joining. And as always, I'm with my co-host, Chris Scarborough. What's up?
Hey, guys. How's everything?
Man, it's good. It's good. How are you today?
Doing well, thank you.
Cool. Good. All right. So, guys, as we said, welcome to the show. If you're new, thanks for joining. Let's give you a quick breakdown of how our show operates because it's a little different than the standard podcast that you're used to. We actually have multiple shows within our show. So there's 3 main episodes that you're going to get from us. Episode 1 is going to be a Q&A. It's where Chris and I will take the questions you guys submit to us and we'll break them down. These questions are going to revolve around performance, rehab, nutrition, anything in that athletic development side of stuff. Strength, speed, agility, best practices, all that. The next episode you'll hear is our guest interview. Our guest interview is where we bring our colleagues on from across the country and across the globe, and they share their stories of success, how they win, what they do with their clients, their patients. And man, we've had some awesome interviews. We were just talking before the show, Chris, about Dr. Rob's interview that came out last week. That was something else. That was a good one.
That's one that if you are a parent in particular, you got an athlete living in your household, that's something I think everybody ought to listen to, and not because of not insulting you or I, but I mean just to hear Dr. Rob and all the stuff he brings to the table, it's incredible.
Yeah, that was a really good interview, and I mean, all of them are great interviews. Everybody we've taken a lot of information away from them, and it's valuable information for everybody. But I don't know, I guess just something about the way he presented things. It was really great. And actually, he agreed. I don't know if I even told you this yet. He agreed to join us quarterly. So it's going to be pretty cool to have the quarterly lineup of him and Dr. J, and we've got 1 or 2 other people coming on quarterly. So. Guys, those are our guest interviews. Check those out. And then the final episode that we have is going to be your Friday Fire or Fact, and sometimes that bleeds into Saturday Sermon. And that's really and truly about 10, 15 minutes of me just real talk, letting you know what's on my mind. Usually it's a little more motivational, a little more business-oriented, or there's a theme, something's, occurred, in my gym over the week that I feel like we need to talk about, that has a little bit more to do with, character development and things of that nature. So that's what those episodes are about. Guys, all of our episodes are available on all audio platforms. They're also available on our YouTube page as well. That's actually right now under the Elite Level Performance YouTube page. Click that. It will, as soon as you type us in the search bar, will pop up. You'll see our page. Just go under the Starting Block playlist. It's there. We are getting ready to launch a new platform for the Starting Block podcast. We hope to have this ready probably by this episode's coming out Tuesday. So our goal will probably be, I'd say the following Friday. So that Friday, Chris, I think, we're going to be ready to launch this new website, and this website will have all the contact info you need. It'll have newsletters, so you guys will be able to stay up to date with what's going on, submit your questions through that. You'll be able to go back and track through, all our episodes. If there's one that you want to find, get a little summary. There will be, episode links and notes and all that good stuff. So that is coming down the pipeline quickly. We appreciate all your support, so we're able to put that together for you guys.
Absolutely.
And then the final thing, we want to make sure that we show some love to our sponsor, Exercise Unlimited. Guys, remember, Exercise Unlimited is the largest distributor of new and pre-owned fitness equipment in Memphis and in the Mid-South. They're locally owned and operated for 23 years. Guys, Exercise Unlimited offers a 5,000 square foot showroom of all the major brands, in addition to a 25,000 square foot warehouse of high quality pre-owned fitness equipment. So with over a combined 40 years in the fitness industry, guys, they're the experts, man. Visit them at exerciseunlimited.com or stop by 387 South Front Street. Tell them John sent you, or use the promo code StartingBlock2023 for additional discounts. And guys, we are proud to have them as one of our sponsors. And I want to tell you that, for some other, people that have reached out wanting to, be a part of the show, we appreciate all of it. And, Chris and I have talked about we're going to support people that support us and something we believe in. Like I'm not going to come on here and just read something that I don't agree with or that I don't use. And guys, I've been down to Exercise Unlimited. The place is massive. It's huge. I know Chris, you haven't been there yet, but next time you come in town, I'll definitely have to take you down there. We get some barbecue too because it's right off Front Street.
Yeah, barbecue any day.
But man, it's huge, guys. They have everything you could want. Great local facility. They've actually got a couple of pieces of equipment for ELP in the back. They're holding off for us. For our baseball crew, guys, you guys are going to love this piece of equipment they got us. I don't want to say what it is because then everybody's going to want to go out and get it. But it is very, very rare. And I'm super stoked that we got it. Got to do a little paint work on it before we bring it to the gym, but it's awesome. So I just want to give a shout out to Exercise Unlimited. Appreciate you guys. We love you guys. Thanks for being a part of this show.
Thank you, guys.
Now that we are done with with all the housekeeping stuff, all the intro stuff, let's get to it. So today's Q&A, and we're going to keep this to one question, and we're going to do that because this question is worthy of a full episode, quite frankly. And so we're just going to kind of break it down and hopefully answer this. The question that we got was, can you please explain bridging the gap between injury and performance, particularly from a training perspective? That's a good one, Chris.
It is. And yes, I can see why we're kind of limiting this episode to that one question.
Yeah, no doubt.
And
so why don't you start on that?
Sure. I was just talking with one of my colleagues here, Thomas Twitty, who we hope to have on the show one day. And we were...
Thomas, you better share the show,
All right,
bro.
Thomas, I hope you're listening to this. He's on the other side of this wall.
If you want to be on this show, share.
There you go. That's the fee. Anyhow, we were just discussing something along this line, and I think what you and I are both seeing is a lot of times when you have athletes and they're going through I'll call it a traditional strength training program, whether it be a high school sport or middle school or just some other structured, just pure strength training. And we are not seeing reduced injury rates, right?
No.
We're actually seeing them.
Gosh, no.
And our discussion, well, first of all, Thomas and I as we were discussing this, we determined that we came to the same conclusion that it's not about muscle, it's about movement. It's training movement. It's proper movement.
Yes.
And this kind of goes back a lot, in my opinion, to what Dr. Rob said. That think of muscle. Think of doing a heavy, like just a crazy heavy squat day. And it's going to take you 6 days to recover from that one heavy squat day, getting all the protein in, letting your muscles just kind of rebuild themselves, etc. It's going to take 6 days. But you smell a rose. I think it was the example of the rose he gave. I could say, smell this. And in 5 seconds, you would know, oh, that's a rose. And it would stay with you the rest of your life. And so that your brain adapts in seconds, the muscles adapt in days. Like, what do you think is going to be easier? What's going to be easier to train? Well, it's going to be the brain. If you can get those things right and you get your movement patterns straight, then from there we can do whatever. We can load it a little bit, right? We can load the movement patterns. We can actually assist the movement patterns. I know that you're a fan of Cal Dietz and
yeah, absolutely.
And so, think of his contract, or where he puts several exercises together, French contrast. Well,
yeah, one of my favorites.
And one of absolutely. And you think about it,
if not my absolute favorite, yeah.
Yeah, Cal, shout out to you, man. We got to get you on one day.
Absolutely.
But think about some of the assisted movement. That's actually where your weight's reduced and you move it faster, as opposed to instead of increasing weight or increasing resistance, actually reduces weight, so you move things faster. And of course, there's actually benefits to both. Assisted work, resisted work, but all of them based around movement as opposed to just squatting for the sake of increasing a squat.
Right. Right. And I think when we look at bridging the gap, what that means and why that's important, I think we even need to take a step back to, to get to the fundamental aspect of it. And, as you and I were talking about a while back, a while back, I'd say before the show, but I think we talk about this, I feel like almost weekly, was, we got in, I know I got into this because that's really where I felt there was a need. And I felt like that is something that was truly missing in our industry. Now, some of my original education will go back to things like NASM and stuff like that. And there's a lot of, it's been 16 years since I first went through all that.
And you're calling me old man.
Yeah, well, how long has it been since you graduated school?
Well, according to my bio, it's 100 years, right?
Yeah.
That's an inside joke. We'll share that later.
I'll fill you in on that, at some point. But so anyways, the point is when I first started in all this, I saw that there was just this theme of people coming into the gym who needed help, that were still feeling pain. Even after, they went through PT or surgery or rehab or chiro, massage or what have you. And it kind of clicked with me at that point, like, okay, I'm sure there's practitioners out there that are great. I mean, this is not a knock on PTs or chiros or anything like that. It was more of, okay, why are these people still hurt? And they're coming to me for, an answer. And quite frankly, I didn't feel like a lot of these, baseline courses and certifications, corrective exercise specialties and all that, BS was answering that question whatsoever. And so that's how I ended up, kind of going down that path. And it started a lot with Dr. J. Dr. J is the one, that if you don't know our history, go back and listen to his episode. But when Dr. J and I connected, that really opened my eyes as to, oh, wow, I see what's going on now. And it boils down to the premise of people are still having pain even after they've gone through their rehab process or what have you, because the muscles are still not absorbing force the right way. And guys, that's a key element you have to take away. There's two distinct properties. Property one of a muscle is the tissue quality, the ability of it to strengthen, kind of like what you were saying there, Chris. Like, strength's important. Yeah, absolutely. Like, got to have strength. But I also put in there, additional tissue evaluation. So, things like flexibility or, if you're Tom Brady, pliability. That's a great word, by the way. I really wish I would have stolen that. Pliability, mobility, all these physical elements. And, that's important. But the other side of it is muscles have to absorb force. And that's why, the injury occurred in the first place, is because the muscle couldn't absorb force. And you can physically alter the structure of the muscle as much as you want. You can strengthen it all you want. But if it can't absorb force, then it doesn't really matter. The force is going to travel somewhere else. And that process is controlled by the way the brain sends a signal to the muscle.
And it's a timing issue. Thus,
it's a timing thing. Right. Exactly.
And
exactly. A timing issue, not a strength issue. That's why, like I said, we live in our area, Chris, like you're in Birmingham, I'm in Memphis. There's some great doctors and practitioners out there. That's not a knock on any of them, but it's the way the current model is set up. Like, what happens is rehabbing is just getting you back to where you were. Well, where you were is why you got injured in the first place. That's the problem. So we got to take you a step above that, right?
Right.
Does that make sense? And that's where Dr. J's theory really stuck with me. And that was kind of a fundamental element of, building ELP into what we've built it into. And then from there, we've adapted all these other, methodologies that, support that. And I think movement is a huge part of that, because when there is inhibited movement, poor patterns, the brain's going to shut stuff down. And for me, that's where GOTA comes in. I love the GOTA theory. I love the recode process. I think it's excellent, because if we're front chain dominant, we need to be back chain dominant. Neurologically, it's just not going to work. The brain's going to say, can't do this, and it's going to shut it. It's going to shut things down. And so, yeah, movement quality is huge. But why? Why is movement quality so important now compared to 20, 30 years ago, Chris? Like, I put out an episode, I guess, a couple Saturdays ago where I was like, when we sit here and say, oh, hey, we do the same thing because that's what's always been done, because it's always been done, or, hey, I'm a strength coach, I'm just going to mimic what this coach, like an Eric Cressy does.
What?
I'm going to mimic what an Eric Cressy does when that's not exactly what your community might need. Like, that's a problem.
So I would say I don't think it's necessarily any less important or any more important movement quality now, as much as it is a as much as we probably don't come into activity with a matrix. Like, you know, again, I mean, kind of going back to the age thing, years ago, I would be, we would never determine what we're going to do during the day because we had a game that night. Okay,
Right. Yeah.
if I had to game that night, I did whatever I wanted to during the day, right?
Exactly.
So
When did that change?
I have
What
no idea.
happened?
I have no earthly idea.
Quite frankly, it bugs the shit out of me. Like, I hear it all the time because now the parents won't leave that train either. They're
Right.
on it. Oh, well, no, we got to stop training completely because we're in
Right.
season. Are you kidding me? Like, what happened? How did we get to that
Right.
point?
Right. That's
Frustrates me to no
it
end,
does.
man.
It does. I think that has a lot to do with it. So it's just a matter of just we don't have the same, or at least kids now don't have the same matrix of activity. So it's like, well, I can't go do this. I got to pitch tonight, or I got to play first base or whatever. I had a kid. Of course, I fussed at him for this, and I've fussed at many people for this, and that was, hey, I got practice today. Okay, so what? So you want me to take it easy on you because you got practice today, we got whatever, fill in the blank. I was like, yeah, that's not a reason.
Yeah.
That's not a reason
Yeah.
to take
No.
it easy.
Right. And so, as we look at, okay, we kind of talk about why some of this is happening. Like, there's a variety of different reasons as to, why people still have pain, or how we bridge the gap, and how the two connect. I think step number one, like we talked about, is evaluating how the muscles, absorb force. Are they actually doing their job? What is, like what you say, the speed of the contraction, right? Is that working? And then what is creating any type of issue there? Now, that can also be everything from, like Dr. Rob talked about, concussions. That could be it could be a visual issue, it could be a movement issue, it could be a gut issue, because all these things will cause the nervous system to just say, nope, put the brakes on, stop, and that will inhibit movement quality
Right.
as well. So then we talked about going into the next side of, like, okay, now we've cleared that, we have to influence the movement side. So as I've talked about, Chris, I'm a big GOTA guy. I like GOTA stuff a lot, but I've done the FRC stuff. I did that. Gosh, FRC. I think Garrett Salpeter and I took that course probably almost 10 years ago.
Wow.
Or so. So if you're a new fit practitioner, and you've gone through, Garrett's stuff, when he talks about the FRC stuff, him and I were in that class together, and that was kind of a cool story. But, in how FRC evaluates the capacity of the joints, and so I look at it from really those two elements, and then I get into the strength side of it.
Yeah, it's only because, and we've discussed this, many times in the past, the joints have so many receptors, in there, so that can affect even the strength, even what strength you can display. So trying to just go about and just build strength without having to, without assessing the readiness, I guess you could say, of the joints, you're kind of missing out on a lot of your potential there. So yeah, I think it's probably a good idea. So he's on to something. Is that Dr. Spina that does that?
Yeah, Dr. Spina's stuff. Yeah, so we've done the FRC course, which is, very popular. We've done FRA, so that's the assessment side of it. And we've actually gone through the Kin Stretch stuff as well, which is the group side of things. And they just have a weird, licensing thing for that. So we never, followed through with it. But it's all good stuff. And, and a shout out to Ryan Paul for all that. Ryan Paul up in Washington really turned me on to that type of stuff. And, Ryan deserves a lot of credit for helping me, understand that. And so it's all very good stuff, but I think that the FRC side of it and what your joints are doing, okay, do your joints have the ability, what's the capacity? Do they even have the capacity for you to strengthen? So you may get cleared by doctor, but then go right back to, your high school weightlifting program, but you never really evaluated you may have skipped the joint part. Like, can your joint even do what it's supposed to do? Physically it might move. Doctor may say, hey, it's cleared, it's healthy enough. Cool. But what's the capacity of it? Did you just rehab it back to where it was? Because, again, where it was is where the problem was. So then you go right back to the same patterns, and we wonder why that pain, comes back or it's still there.
What?
And then you said it like this.
Oh, no,
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I mean, you're noticing there's so many similarities between, what you said about Dr. Spina's system with Square One and, and prior to that, and probably even since longer than that, Dr. J. Dr. Rob. I mean, what do they all have in common? Well, there's a lot more to this. And Dan Fichter, I'm gonna throw him into the
Dan.
It's not just, again, if all you're doing is focusing in on muscle, you're kind of missing out, because you have all, again, receptors in the joints. Your visual system, clearly, your eyes, the vestibular system, the inner ear, and being able to train all these things, you actually can end up with a better response in strength, as opposed to just going in and grunt lifting. It just I think you're beginning to see these more in practice. Again, doctor, I'm going to give Dr. J credit, because he's the first person I witnessed to manipulate a joint to bring about better proprioceptive response through an ankle joint. Okay, that's the first time I ever saw that. I don't know how many years ago, almost 20 years ago now. But it's being able to see things like that, and then the person's response. Okay, I'm going to just, again, go back. This person's limping in. They are not limping out. They're walking normally on their way out. How did that happen? They didn't just all of a sudden, their muscles did not all of a sudden get stronger. They were able to display stronger, even though they didn't all of a sudden get stronger. So, it's kind of like, if you're in a 100-meter race, all that matters is that you run faster than everybody else, right? If you want to win the race, run faster than everybody else in that race. Well, I don't care how that person looks. They better actually be able to perform, right? And so,
right. It's kind of like the Usain Bolt thing, right? You hear that all the time. I mean, I'm not a huge track guy. It's not really my. I know you are, but like they say, he is horrible. like his running technique is awful, but he's the best ever.
I guess it depends on what you consider awful. I consider it beautiful, because it's like I don't care. Guy wins, right?
Oh yeah.
So.
Yeah, kind of side note, not to get you off track there, but like I know we reached out to Justin Gatlin, I'd like to get him on the show. But Elliot, if you're listening to this, man, I need to get in touch with Coach Bruce. Let's get Coach Bruce on at some point, okay? And guys, we'll have Elliot on it as well. But Coach Bruce is one of the best kept secrets maybe ever when it comes to the Olympics, especially in the southern states. He has got a couple gold medals, and he has done some special stuff. He's a track guy, but anyways. Yeah, we need to get him on, Chris, at some point. I think you'd really like to talk to him. But yeah, anyways, keep going. I'm sorry. You know me, I'm going on tangents.
Well, no, I think more than anything else, I think bridging the gap is not even so much bridging. I guess, coming down to the just, kind of just summarizing this whole thing is, I don't think bridging a gap is bridging a gap at all. Really. I mean, I believe, it's just training. What is rehab? Okay, you have an injury and you're training. What is training, or what is performance training? You're not injured in your training. It's still training. You're still trying to create an adaptation in your body to do something better than when you came in. Period.
Yeah. So as we get close to wrapping this up, that third element, I think, we've already talked about really the neuro side and how all that, getting all that firing the right way, then the movement side of stuff as well. And then I think the final part is, the strength side of it, right? I guess, if we're going to close that out, and I think you hear a lot of, we're going to ease back into it. I don't buy that.
Right.
What do you think on that?
No, I would agree that I remember you saying something. I'm going to kind of reference something you said a while back because I have grown to agree with this, and also uh, Brent Rooker also said the same thing. Instead of trying to you know try to learn very specific patterns or whatever, go swing the bat as hard as you can. Yeah, just go swing the
Yeah.
bat as hard as you can. We'll piddle with how differences later on. So I would say that no, go hard. No, you might have to vary the volume, but you know what? Train hard, and then if there's certain things that do create a problem, well, you can either adapt those or modify those, or eliminate them temporarily until you get around the problem. But no, you still train hard.
Hmm. Yeah. And I think this third element is where there's still a huge curve in the industry that's going to take another 20, 30 years to address. And I think that's the purpose of this podcast, because I see it constantly. It's any idiot can put a bar on an athlete and fatigue them. Anybody. And there's so much information out there, so much TikTok, so much Instagram stuff. Everybody's trying to be an influencer. Everybody's giving you all this other stuff, and the bodybuilding stuff looks cool, right? The body, gotta get that shit all the time. Oh, well, this guy did this. Well, congratulations. He's 250 pounds of pure muscle. He can be an IFBB pro. I guarantee you he probably can't run a very good 100-meter. So there's so much info out there, and everybody who buys a single program or trains on their own or does anything feels like they know exactly what they're talking about. And so you get into this scenario where you go back into the school weight room. You go back in with your private coach who has no idea what steps 1 and 2 are even about. They think they do, but guess what, guys? Core work and rotator cuff work ain't step number 2. That's not it. It's actually step number 3. Okay. There's still this gap in that process there. And so then the kid or the client or whomever it may be goes right back to square one, because, they've rehabbed the injury or what have you. And then they go right back to the poor movement pattern that they had. And hey, guess what? It comes back, and you see it all the time. I hear it all the time. It's like, well, I'm sorry. Like, what we told you, can't help it if your ankle collapses every time you take a step. Like, should you take a year off from playing ball? If you're having such a significant problem that required major surgery, to fix, and you still have issues with it after rehab and all that, and somebody comes in and tells you, hey, look, the neuro response is off and so is your movement pattern. It's like, what are you supposed to say to those people? Like, yeah, you might have to take a year off.
Well, I mean,
sorry, because you move horribly. Yeah. Like, I can't.
In a case like that, it's just kind of like, if I were you, here's fill in the blank. Here's what I would do, versus but rather than trying to make the decision for them,
Sure.
But yes, I mean, as far as sometimes you're right. This is going to take us a little bit of time here. Yeah, it might take some time to more than you want, more than you want to hear, in order to get back to not just rehabbing the injury, but actually, getting back to where you move, so that this is less likely to happen again.
Right. Exactly. And so it all goes back to that as well. I've said it once. I'll say it again. We are de-evolving as a society. Our youth and our kids are getting worse and worse and worse at a younger age, and they're starting to care less and less and less. And they are starting to, just block everything else out and live in their own little world. It also sounds like that's intentionally done. But the point is that when we skip this type of process in our profession, we're setting these athletes and our clients up for failure, because we have to address it in a holistic approach. Because, guys, everything works together. You can't separate these elements. That's not how the body works. It all works together.
Right. So, yeah, and that's I in a nutshell, I mean, I think a lot of problems are just a lack of just general coordination. Just a
Yeah.
big matrix of coordinated patterns. Riding a bike. I mean, I'm just gonna
Hmm.
throw that out there. Something simple as riding a bike outside. Not riding a bike. Not an exercise bike. Nothing against like exercise
Yeah.
bike companies, but I mean, just a bicycle. Just running over rocks and
Yeah.
things like that, and skateboarding and various things like that. Whatever. I mean, it's just
Totally random story here, but a couple of years ago when I still lived in
right.
Collierville. So, guys, our businesses in Collierville, Tennessee, and like kind of suburb of Memphis, but I live way out in the country now. But when I did live in Collierville, I would drop my truck off for service and I'd ride my bike to work, and like it's only like a 4.5 5 minute drive from from the old house here. Dude, I rode my bike a couple years ago for the first time ever. I almost didn't make it.
Right.
That my quads were sore for like a week, and I mean, I get
Yeah.
after it when I train. I get after it. Yeah.
But not like that. Right.
So I'm
Yeah.
de-evolving. Yeah, I'm
Sure.
de-evolving too as we speak. But don't underestimate the little basics like that. I mean, just pushing the human body to do
Yeah.
different things. But so like you talked about, how we bridge the gap. Well, guys, this is it. Here you go. This is how you bridge the gap. That's the whole point of this show, is to give you guys the information, and the information we just gave you, if you're a coach, is absolutely, it is so valuable that, like, if you don't go out and utilize this, if you don't go out and share this information, you have no business in this industry at all. Don't listen to our show anymore, because you're not going to get anything more valuable than that. That is literally the system right there. That's huge.
Absolutely.
That right there is worth sharing the show. And if you don't share the show with this, don't even worry about coming back and listening. Just don't listen. Don't bother. It's not worth our time. That is good information, guys. And that info is all through the show. Go listen to all the different guests. So there's a variety of ways you can go about it. We each have our way. Chris and I both have our ways that we, go about things, but ultimately we're speaking the same language and accomplishing the same thing, starting at the basics and working back up through it. They're trying to get you past where you were when you got injured. So that's a great question.
It was. Yeah, it was. And, I'm sure that, I'll probably think of something on the way home. But, oh, I just said that. It'll hit me later.
Yeah.
But anyhow, yeah, for the time being, on a short notice, that's the best responses I could think of.
Yeah, no doubt. So whoever submitted that, I know, Chris, you handle the questions. Whoever submitted that, thank you. That was a heck of a question, and hopefully we answer that. And so again, your 3 points are evaluating the neuro side of it. Number 2, evaluating that movement side of things. And then number 3, then addressing that strength, that physical component, right? And put it all together. Obviously, again, following, whatever, parameters they have set forth by the medical community as well. If you're a strength coach, you're not a doctor, remember that. So that was good. That was a good conversation, man. I appreciate whoever shared that. So, guys, as I said a minute ago, remember, there is a fee for this show, and it is to share the show. If you got information out of it, if it taught you something, share the show, guys. I'm getting tired of asking this question because this is valuable information. Share the show, man. Help. This is what the community is about, because we know who listens to this show. I see the numbers, right? And our numbers are really, really good. Share the dang show, though, because I know you're not, because I see it, or I see the lack thereof, But bring us somebody. When we say that, that doesn't mean just if you listen to one episode, it's all the episodes. Like every episode that you listen to and enjoy, send that to somebody. Share it. Bring us somebody. Help us grow this, because we don't want to hear you're complaining about stuff anymore. Like, we're making it easy on you. I mean, hell, Chris had to learn all this stuff when they didn't even have books, guys. Like, yeah. So guys, share the show, man. We appreciate that. And guys, it's a mission. We're on a mission for this. This is not something we're just doing, because like we're passionate about this and we care about this, and we want to help you guys. We want y'all to succeed, whether you're the athlete, the parent, or the coach. We want to see you guys win. We want to change the way that things are done. That's what it's all about. We appreciate you guys listening. Thanks, guys. Share the show. See you soon.